juicy gains. And I will show you that I had some very nice results over this weekend. So here are, you see the date stamps there. I traded Litecoin and got myself $208 there. And then I traded Fartcoin as well and got myself $50 there. So $250 over the weekend just trading those coins. That is pretty nice if you ask me, because you have to ask yourself, how often can you replicate that? Of course, you're not always going to win. You're also going to lose. That is very normal. But you're going to find out, what is my win rate? What is my average calculated daily win? And then that turns into income, right? And by the way, it is not just me who makes this happen. Is also people in the Crypto Alliance community, our members. Here, for example, you have a testimonial from Az, who says, small gains. He managed to get $300 just doing normal trades. And of course, that's very humble, right? Because a normal trade, $300, wow, congratulations. How can you learn to start that journey of being exposed to crypto? Not necessarily doing trades right away, but first getting comfortable with buying crypto, transacting, understanding the different blockchains and all of that. And then slowly easing maybe into trading, learning how to trade with other people's money, learning how to do liquidity positions, which is part of decentralized finance, something that a lot of traders actually don't talk about because they don't understand it. I like to be well-rounded, and I like to approach the world of crypto from all angles. Why, you are asking me? Because I literally live a crypto lifestyle. I live off of trading and investing, also teaching it. And if you want to know, if you're asking yourself, how does he do that? Because he used to be an entrepreneur, he used to be active in marketing, and now he's just talking about crypto all the time. How does he do that? Well, you are in luck. I have my landing page here, crypto.lifestyle. You can choose from two options. Either have a free masterclass pre-recorded, or you can join me live on the 3rd and come and ask your questions. So if that is something you're interested in, now is the moment to do this. I want to take some time. Of course, we're going to talk about Bitcoin today. Where is it going to head? Are we going to new all-time highs, or are we potentially looking at a rejection? And a lot of people are overly bullish sometimes, and I want to take the bearish stance today, not necessarily because I am a bear, but because I have learned in this world of crypto and investing, it is the true winners are those who can read the data, who can read the room, and who are able to take their own ego out of the situation and just act very pragmatically based on what you see is going on the charts, especially when it comes to planning for the long term. You need to be able to move in the direction from where the wind is blowing, right? You want to have some help. And that is why it is so important that you remain very nimble and you can flip your bias. We either have a bullish or a bearish bias. And ideally, at every time you look at the charts, you have to ask yourself, what would the bear in me say? And what would the bull in me say? So you know how I used to watch these cartoons as a kid where you had the angel and the devil on the shoulder, right? And you would have to listen to both of them. Type in yes in the chat if you remember those cartoons. So as a trader, as an investor, you want to have a bull and a bear on each side of the shoulder and have a plan. And what's beautiful when you start adopting this kind of approach is that you sometimes can play both sides until one crystallizes. And we refer to that as hedging. So let's say, for example, you are long-term bullish on Bitcoin. So you accumulate Bitcoin day by day by dollar cost averaging into it, which is something I do because I'm definitely long-term bullish if you haven't noticed yet. But I also understand that there may be correction phases that are healthy for the markets. And during those phases, you don't have to sit the money making out. You just need to know, how can I hedge against that downdraft, and how can I even make money while Bitcoin goes down? And those are, of course, a little bit more advanced strategies, right? So let's see, I have something in the chat here. Andrea, yeah, she definitely remembers the angels and devils on the shoulders in the cartoons. Yeah, those were good times. Good times when we had time to watch these cartoons. Yeah, okay, so let's go and look at Bitcoin at the chart, because as always, the smartest thing you can do really is learn from the past, right? Learn from the past. So this is what we're going to look at together now. So here you can see, by the way, this is the trade on Litecoin I took over the weekend. So we're going to analyze that together, see what I did. But before we go to that, definitely stay on the stream, because I will show you that before we go to that. Bitcoin. Yeah, so Bitcoin, I brought up this this very high time frame view here. I want you to understand that here you see 2018 here in the lower right hand side, and then of course here, that's where we are right now, right? And if you look closely, I use those arrows to point to a few moments in time that were relevant to me. And I actually, the arrows are completely off. Maybe I need to be on the daily time frame so that they are correct. Yes, so daily time frame. Okay, so what have I put onto the charts here? First of all, you have to know that this was the 2021 bull run, okay? And then here is the current bull run. So I always like to look back at the past and say, well, what happened at a given moment in time, and how did things play out in the past, and how can we compare that to now? So what you're seeing here, this, let me zoom in a little bit on the 2021 bull run. So what you see in this red curve, that is the 200-day moving average. No, sorry, that's the 50-day moving average. And then the green curve is the 200-day moving average. And those are two very important moving averages when you trade, specifically because it is often gauged as the 50-day is used to determine, are we currently in an uptrend? So for example, here you see price is above the 50-day. So that is, of course, an uptrend. And then the 200 is to determine, are we in a bull phase or a bear phase? Of course, price being above the 200 is bullish, and price being below is bearish. And when we have this moment where the 50-day crosses the 200-day, in that sense where the 50-day gets lower, gets underneath the 200 moving average, that is an interesting cross. That's why there's a cross in here. Okay, it's often called the death cross also. Why? Because it clearly shows a shift in the market. And if you observe here, when the death cross happened for the first time in the 2021 bull run, what happened is that price went down. We're looking at the 50-day in particular, and then it recovered, right? Recovered. So it caught up. Then this situation of the death cross happened for a second time, so time number 2, the 50-day moving average went down, and then the price went up to touch the 200 MA. And that is referred to as the kiss of death. Okay, so this is the death cross, and when the 200 moving average is just barely touched, that is referred to as the kiss of death. Why? Because after kissing the line, we go into the bear phase. Okay, so I want you to look at this. We have first time crossing in as a bearish cross, second time crossing as a bearish cross, and all of this being part of the 2021 bull run. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll go to the right and we'll go to our current bull run. And what you can see is that we had our first bearish cross of those two moving averages here. And what we did was the same thing as previously. We went down and then reclaimed. We reclaimed the bullish momentum in a very, very strong manner, by the way, because this was the Trump pump. These were the elections. And very recently, we have seen that bullish cross for the second time here. You see that? Now, as you know, last time in the last bull run, when we had it for the second time, remember, we had the death kiss situation. So we went here and kissed the 200 moving average, and then we went into a correction. And I just want us to be aware of the fact that this could happen. Is definitely a possibility. So we need to pay very close attention to what price is doing. Now, let's look at that. Let's look at what price is doing, and we can only make our assumptions based on what we see. But as I said, we need to have our little bull on the left shoulder and our little bear on the right shoulder. Everyone following so far? Type in yes in the chat if you do. Also, if you have any questions, let me know, because this is very important stuff. This getting used to looking at the charts in both bullish and bearish ways is going to distinguish you from other people who are just basically placing their buys, their trades based on emotions, right? Especially for those of you who want to not just hodl, but you want to time the market at least a little bit. You want to be able to buy Bitcoin when it's low and then sell it when it's higher, jump in and out like that. That is important. Okay, so this is the Bitcoin chart, and Bitcoin is the father of all crypto. Most coins are heavily influenced by the movement of Bitcoin. By the way, let me show you what I look at when I day trade. I have a few charts that I always look at. This year is this year is the Nasdaq. Okay, usually it does a move first, and that impacts Bitcoin. Okay, so that's second, and Bitcoin impacts the rest. So ETH is an indicator for the rest, alternative coins. And that's how I look at these things. 1, 2, 3. And then this year is the USDT dominance in stable coins. So when stable coins go down, Bitcoin typically goes up. You see that here? Let me start that from scratch. Okay. Stable coin goes down because people are getting risky. Bitcoin goes up. stablecoin goes up because people are being fearful, Bitcoin goes down. You see that correlation there? So this is very important to understand these things as you go into trading and day trading. But that's kind of a little bit of a tangent. Let's get back to Bitcoin. Okay, so one thing that is very important to see here is this massive, we call that a support area here during this phase, massive support, because price was upheld by this boundary here at around $96,000. So that's a very important area that as we try to listen to the bull in us, we have to understand that it's going to be very hard to fight back through this area here, because it has been support for so long. Now we have to understand that it's going to be strong resistance as well. Another indicator that this area is going to be very hard to crack is when we look at what we call the volume profile. So this is here, I'm blending this in. So as you can see, what these bars here represent is the amount of people in red who sold and the amount of people in green who bought. And of course, when most of people were active as buyers and sellers in the marketplace, that forms something which we refer to as point of control. So this horizontal black line here, 95,537 on my chart, is called a point of control. Meaning, essentially, if you think of this as a war between the bulls being here at the top, the bulls being here at the top, and the bears being here at the bottom. So the war gets decided around this point of control. So you get the idea. Now, will we just break through that boundary? So that's what a lot of people are kind of hoping for, right? This movement here. It's very highly unlikely that that will happen. Very highly unlikely. As a matter of fact, what usually happens is that we have to fight hard here, and we go up, and then we get rejected, and we have to fight here, and then we break through. I will tell you, though, that this scenario here, although the bull in me wants that very badly, I'm not so sure if we will get that immediately. I think something that is way likelier is that we get the push up here, and then we have the bears who are able to defend this level, and we get pushed down to the next support here at around 91,000. That's obviously also a level here you see that has often been support for this level here in between this space. So in trading, you always ask yourself, which level are we in, and are we in favorable conditions for the bulls or the bears? And then you act accordingly. So a very important level not to lose, obviously you know that by now, is the 200 moving average here. That would put us back into bearish territory. And as you can see, we're only 2 levels away from that. So this is definitely a situation where we could see a repeat of this last cycle here, where we had the second bearish cross, and then we never really made it back into bullish territory. I'm not saying this is going to be the case. I want you to be aware of the fact that this could happen. So then you're asking me, well, I'm an investor in Bitcoin, a believer in Bitcoin. What should I do right now? And the answer right now is probably, if you want to be very defensive, honestly, I would cash it out into stablecoins. No, not financial advice. It's just my opinion, right? Because you want to see what this fight here does. Because if the bulls win, we will see something like this, and then there is always going to come this contraction where you can then jump in, right, and ride the wave up. So I would definitely wait to see what happens. It's a very decisive moment. If you are a day trader or even a swing trader and you want to look at shorts, that's maybe something you can do right now. But there's going to be a lot of choppiness in this area here. I mean, you can already see by what was going on here, okay? It's like lots of chop where traders lose money because they are impatient. So what that means for traders is that they build, you should have a no trade zone, okay? So essentially you see where all this activity is happening, you turn that into a red no trade zone for yourself, okay? So that means in practicality, you just let the bulls and bears fight here and see who comes out and wins, and then you wait for confirmation. This is confirmation. So it's definitely a moment to have patience. If we see this could happen, that we're not even going to have a fight, that the market is not courageous enough to go into the fight, we could see this. We could see something like this, right? Even like this, and then going through. So that is essentially the view on Bitcoin right now. And the truth is, nobody really ever knows. Nobody really ever knows. That's why it's so important to be looking at these things on a daily basis. By the way, this is on the live stream. In the Crypto Alliance community, we have something called a Telegram channel where updates are posted way more frequently, sometimes several times a day. And that's, you gotta go to crypto.lifestyle to even have a chance at getting into that community. Oh yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If not, I want to look at the trade, just as a reminder. The trade I took over the weekend was the following. So actually 2 trades. The Litecoin trade that made me $208, and the Fartcoin trade. Fartcoin is air that always goes up, right? The fart is warm, so it always goes up. That's why you trade the Fartcoin. So, but no, I want to analyze the Litecoin trade here with you, just so you can understand what I was looking for. Okay, so here it is hard to see. Let me zoom in a little bit. So it was this section that is of interest, and it's very hard to see, but you can see this green arrow here. That was a buy, and then here that was a buy, and then sell, sell, sell. Okay, and then it went down again. And very often in crypto, you have these ranging up and downs. Like this was potentially an opportunity to do the same trade again. However, because we are so close to Bitcoin potentially being rejected, it's I prefer to trade over the weekend. So what was my thinking? Well, you always have your levels in on the charts. So what you do is you look at I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to recognize this upper boundary and lower boundary, right? Resistance, support. And as you can see, most of the time, the coin will go in different patterns, up and down between these two support lines. So what I saw on Friday was that price was here, and if you understand anything about trading, you know that there are market makers, and the market makers need to make sure that they remain profitable, which means that they have to revisit zones of interest. Zones of interest, that is something you start seeing with experience, but let me just tell you, when you see something like this here, that is a zone of interest. So you have to mark that as, of course, also a boundary. And then you have to tell yourself, this is one of the hardest things in trading, is be patient until it revisits that zone. So it did, it tapped it. Then you look for signs of reversal. And that's what I did. That's why I bought here and here. And then you go up and you have predefined levels where you take profit. It's also very difficult for traders to take profit because they always want to go to the moon. They always want to do this and then cash out somewhere here. But this was a very picture perfect trade, but it doesn't always go like this. Looks like a slice of pizza. It makes me hungry. Doesn't always go like this. But that comes with experience and with believing that you can do it, and with believing that you can live a lifestyle in crypto. If you want to follow a similar lifestyle, if you want to tell the world, I'm ready to exit the rat race, I'm done with the 9 to 5, I want a plan to potentially earn a living doing something else, then I offer you crypto.lifestyle. I even changed the caption. We have the correct caption here now. There you go. Crypto.lifestyle is a landing page. Type it in just as it is in the browser and claim your free masterclass. And currently there's also a button if you prefer to be live on a Zoom call with me and have your questions answered. You can do that as well. Andrea says the fart is warm, always goes up. Yeah, that's essentially why Fartcoin is so powerful. It's not always rocket science. It's just, I mean, it makes sense, right? The Fartcoin. Beautiful. Okay, so that's all for now. I think, oh yeah, one last thing. On Mondays, very often, a lot of professional traders abstain from trading because they understand that there's a range that is often forming on Monday. And a lot of traders look at what was the Monday high and what was the Monday low. And you remember we looked at ranges, right, at the top resistance and lower support. And very often, when you just look at a weekly time frame, those ranges, those trends are defined on a Monday. So we're clearly a Monday right now, and I believe there's also lots of news coming out this week that impacts the world of crypto. Actually, let's take a look at that together. If that is indeed the case, I have a bookmark here to always look at the crypto calendar. What is going on? What is important? So let me bring that back on the stream. So here it is. And what do we have? This is cryptocraft.com calendar if you want to bookmark that for yourselves. So we have, so there we go. Essentially, on the way they show you what to really pay attention to is with the paper plane color. So the the redder it is, the more important it is. So obviously we have on Wednesday the GDP and the PCE. So these meetings always move price, and very often, honestly, the best thing to do is to not trade 4 hours before and after those types of events, but definitely attend the event so you learn to understand how they impact the economy and pricing. Is there any other question? Please put them in the comments. Even if it is not live anymore, I'll always come back to the comments and look at whether I can answer anything. Let me take a quick look also at my LinkedIn, because the comments don't feed into my software. Just want to make sure I don't miss anything here. But it doesn't look like anyone has a question. Awesome. Brilliant. Well, have a great rest of your Monday. I'll see you soon on this channel again. Don't forget, if you learned anything, if this was valuable to you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone. I know you have someone within your circle that says, hey, I just have this feeling that this crypto thing, Bitcoin, is indeed important, and I want to get educated on this. That's what I'm here for, and that's what Crypto Alliance is there for. So definitely take advantage of that, because you have so many people in this space who are just influencers and who make their money by you following what they tell you to do. I am a little different in that way, where I actually live off of this crypto lifestyle, and that is very important to always follow someone who's actually living it. All right, folks, that's it for now, and I'll see you back tomorrow. Thank you so much.